Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. I, of course, am here with the Daily Mortgage Rate Update, the only place on the web where we get together every morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Glad to be back at my desk, not going to lie. Glad to have slept in my bed last night with full night's sleep. I was running on about 2 hours sleep in about 40 hours, so was a little sleep deprived. So anyway, I am back. Today, we're going to be talking about what's going on with the Fed meeting today, the Fed press conference, what we got going on the rest of the week. Quite a few things to go over today. Really keeping our options open is what it's all about. Remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget, just give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Let's go ahead and say hi to the live folks while I put up that QR code and remind you that we can go ahead and sign up for a quick reminder. Get a text message that I'm going live so you don't miss the show at hmmr.io/reminder. Good morning, Monica Dinkins, Angela Walters, Amy Blauser. Great to have all of you here. Michael Love, Mike Brown, Mallory Fotiadas, Mike Morano. Good morning, all. Megan Bissell, good morning. Great to have all of you here. Chris Dickerson, Tiffany Teal, thank you for joining. So appreciate all of you being with me this morning. How are you all doing? Let me know in the comments how y'all are doing today. All right, and let me go ahead and bring this up. All right, let's dive right in. We'll get to the good stuff. Remember, we're going to start out here with what's going on with mortgage-backed securities. Let me pull up Presentify so I can. There we go. So I can go ahead and we can do some doodling, some drawing. So right now, mortgage-backed securities down 13 basis points on the day. However, being down 13 basis points, not a big deal because of this right here. See the way that this is moving up, up, up. We had a great day. Let me zoom in on this. And we will go over. There you go. So yesterday had a great day. Mortgage bonds came out, or pricing came out. Mortgage bonds were right here around 99.40-ish, and we ended the day up here around 99.60. And obviously, when things go up like this in mortgage-backed security pricing, that gives us a smiley face. Again, we like to see mortgage-backed security pricing go up on the day. When this chart goes up, that means you've got improved pricing. Now, the only downside, there weren't a lot of lenders that repriced better yesterday. Let me know in the comments, please, if you did see any reprices better yesterday. There were very few. There were not a lot at all. Even though we did see quite an improvement of over 20 basis points through the day yesterday, which normally would be enough to see that condition where we would see a reprice better, but we really didn't see any reprices better yesterday. And lenders are generally playing it close to the vest right now, right ahead of the Fed meeting. So that's part of the reason why that we saw that. Now this morning, you'll take a look. Let me bring this up a little bit higher so I can pull it up here. If we take a look this morning, we're down, like I said, we're down right now at the moment, 14 basis points. That does wash out some of yesterday's gains, which would be a negative thing. However, we know today is going to be all about the Fed meeting and everything that's going on this afternoon. Before we get there, though, let's take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield. It's currently at 4.37. We would round off that last. There we go, 4.37. Just had to tell it what to do. And 4.37, which is nice. Now, again, we want to see the 10-year Treasury yields go down. When the yield drops, that means the price has gone up, which is what we want to see. So 10-year Treasury yield going down, a good sign. And you can see what we normally talk about, the ebbs and the flows, the ups and the downs. Now, a lot more going on today. Today, we've got the Fed meeting at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Right now, expectations that the Fed will leave its rate totally unchanged, almost 100% expectation the Fed will leave its Fed funds rate unchanged today. Probably make minimal changes to the policy statement that it releases as well. But at 2:30 p.m., that's when Powell will be talking. And Powell going to be getting a lot of questions about a lot of different things. We'll dive in deeper into that. But really, what we want to be looking for is what do markets believe is the Fed is telling us. Now, the Fed had already, the different Fed members, if you remember the dot plot, they've already put out there that they expect to see 1 to 2 rate cuts this year. And this is where we have to kind of be alert. So right now, there's only 3 meetings that are left between now and the end of the year. We have September, October, and December. Markets are currently pricing in that by December, that the Fed will go from the current 4.25. That's where we're at now. There's less than a 10% expectation that we would stay where we're at now. There's about a 30% probability they're pricing in that we will only see one rate cut. All right. So this is currently being, a possibility. There's a 40% chance we'll see two rate cuts. And I still believe this is higher than it should be. And I'm surprised it's high. About a 20% expectation. This column here would be three rate cuts. Now, that means that we'd get one September, November, December, or we would get a larger than quarter point cut is basically what this means. Because this means we would be 3/4 of a point lower than where the Fed funds rate is today. Now, I think what's going to happen today, you're going to hear a lot of comments about being data dependent and keeping things open. Now, remember, when it comes to this next Fed meeting, this meeting is September 17th, right? Hold on, that it moved to there we go. This meeting is September 17th. And between now and then, we're going to get this Friday's jobs data, which is going to affect bonds. But we're going to have a whole nother month of reports. We've got another CPI. We've got another jobs report. We've got more PCE data. We got all these different things that are happening between now and that Fed meeting. Now, if markets start to believe that the Fed will not cut rates, and again, we have to look beyond this to see mortgage rates improve at all. We're looking for conditions that when we get into 2026, and that's this dark gray, all these dark gray meetings right here, 2026. Right now, when we look at December of 2026, markets are, basically pricing in. We're at 4.25 right now. Markets believe that we're going to be at 3.5 or 3.25 or 3. Look at where markets believe. And we have to be very aware. Everyone's talking about this month and this rate cut, September rate cut. But we really need to be looking at where does the Fed believe that rates will be as we head through 2026. In order to see mortgage rates improve, we would have to see conditions that would have the Fed cutting rates. And it's not just the Fed rate cuts. Remember, I've shown you before, when we look at where the Fed cut rates before and we look at what happened to mortgage rates after they cut them, let's go ahead and make this chart a lot smaller. Okay. So here is where rates were at back in August. And here's where rates have been since then. And the Fed cut rates September, November, and December. So when the Fed cut rates, they cut rates up by a point up through here, and yet mortgage rates didn't really go down that much. So even when the Fed does cut in September, you're not going to see that drive rates down. If the Fed does cut in November or December, you're not going to see that drive rates down. It's the expectation of what's going to happen beyond that, further beyond that, where are things going to be? Is inflation under control? Is the labor market starting to weaken? Is the economy slowing down? Right now, I still profess, I know I'm not out. I know it's not a popular thing, especially among originators. I don't think rates are too high. I don't think mortgage rates are too high. I think mortgage rates in the 6s and 7s are not our problem. What our problem is housing prices. So the question is, do we see a correction or, I don't even want to say a crash, but do we see a correction that brings housing prices down and helps affordability? That's really the question. If we want to see a healthier lending market, we need to see that happen. The other reality is that there's just going to be less loans. And that means there's going to be less loan originators. And that means your marketing has to be dialed in. Your prospecting and business acquiring skills have to improve to get more business. That's because you can't depend on rates to do it. Now, there's certainly fatigue over rates being higher and but is it real? I don't think it is. I think it's home prices. I've said this before and I'll say it again. 7% on a $200,000 home versus 5% on a $300,000 home. That payment is still higher. So that's what I think our problem is. And I think it was caused because of the reaction to COVID and what was allowed to happen through the economy and just so many different variables. We're going to be paying for it for years and years. It's still going to be that way. So, but as far as on track here, we're going to see a lot of questions to Powell during his press conference. I'm sure he's going to get more questions about the stupid renovation. I wish they would just let that go at this point. It's not like anything is going to change about that. It's not like there's a room in the building for Powell. Powell's going to be the Fed chair until May of 2026, and most likely he'll resign his position in the Fed at that point. Most likely, we don't know, but most likely he's not going to be there. But Fed governors could break ranks as Trump intensifies Powell pressure. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and that's kind of what we got going on. Here is Mickey Bowman and Christopher Waller. They are the two that are likely to dissent today. And again, I pointed this out before. Mickey, who was very, very hawkish in the past, now more dovish. Ron says you can't compare mortgage rates post drop. The mortgage market anticipates Fed funds like you're doing today. The rates have dropped before the Fed moves. Yeah, but I can, Ron. I'll show you why. Here was the buy the rumor, sell the whatever, right? Mortgage rates dropped, if you remember, heading into last September's meeting, not because of the September rate cut that was expected, but because it was expected to kick off more rate cuts. When it became obvious, when the Fed cut that half point and then cut again in November and December, rates had moved back up. So it's elastic rates. Yes, mortgage rates did move down. Here they were above 7, right? They did move down in anticipation of Fed rate cuts. However, they then moved back up. And were they lower than the above 7% rates here? They other than like this time where they bumped up, yes, we have averaged and been lower than we were right here. So you can argue that, we obviously. So then my question is, why didn't it stay there? If it was the anticipation and we got mortgage rates dropped ahead of the Fed rate cut, which we talked about definitely happens. Well, why didn't they stay lower? Why did they go back up? And the reason they went back up is because of the economy, inflation, tariffs, all of that stuff drove everything back up. And that's why we're right back where we were. And that's why, as much as everyone wants to bag on Powell and the rest of the Fed for leaving rates unchanged, I don't think that they've made any real mistake on it. Now, does that mean I don't see signs that the economy is weakening out there, that people are struggling? Of course not. I see those signs. But when you look at the actual data and reports, I don't think that they support it at all. So Ron said, over under how many times some stupid reporter going to ask if he's going to resign? Yeah, right. We'll probably, I think we'll get less of that at this meeting, hopefully, but definitely going to be there. I think we're going to get a lot of questions at this meeting about when are they going to, are they going to cut in September? He's going to get that one over and over. He's going to have to reiterate over and over that it's data dependent, that they think tariffs are rising the second half of the year, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, where do we think rates are going to be today and what's going to happen to rate sheets? Looking at rate sheets and where we're at right here, again, 6.77. These are not terrible rates. We have not seen rates move. When I pointed out over and over, 6.77, we can go right back to that exact same number on July 9th. Here we are 21 days later, 3 weeks later, we're there again. And how much movement did we see between then and then? Here we go, July 22nd. 8 days ago, we had the same number, and here we are again. So we have seen rates that have been remarkably steady over the last month and a half, 6 weeks, and rates have really not moved. We've seen small day-to-day movements in pricing, but we haven't seen rates move. Rates have really been solid. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think we have to worry about rates moving up higher. I'm not worried about locking anything that's closing 30 days out or longer. If you've got a loan that's closing August, September, or something new contract, I wouldn't be locking any of those. I'm not concerned that we're going to see rates move higher from here. I don't think we're going to see rates move much lower from here, though. I think we're going to see some reaction today. We're going to see some movement. We could see a positive reaction if we get any kind of perception from markets that anything that's said during the press conference is dovish and supports that Fed rate cut in September. But I don't think we're going to see any big moves. But we could pick up some better pricing. We want to be floating all of our loans into today's meeting. Be ready to lock anything closing in the next couple of weeks. Even if we have a negative reaction to today's bond meeting or to today's Fed meeting, even if bonds lose ground, I wouldn't be in a hurry to lock anything that's closing outside of the next couple of weeks, because I don't think we have to worry about rates going up and staying up. Even if rates did jump up a little bit and we saw a negative reaction today, it's not going to continue long term. There's, markets are just going to rebound and say, oh, the Fed's going to have to cut. The Fed's going to have to cut. So I don't think we have to worry about that. and we'll see where all that goes. Ron's comment: he can't discuss being data dependent because so much internal data shows a softening labor market. And that's Christopher Waller's argument, as you know, is that the data strength that we see for the labor market is not private data. It's not private market data. It's not private jobs. It's government stuff and education and things like that. So we will see. But this is Tim Ross's article yesterday. There's nothing new today. They're not dropping any new bombs or any new hints on what the expectations are today and where things will be at. I think it's overall, I don't think we're going to see as much volatility today as we could. I think expectations are that the Fed will continue to say the data dependency that, and we're going to see a lot of buildup as we get to the idea of a rate cut in the September meeting. And everyone's going to talk about is the Fed acting too late. That's really where we are on all this. So I would not, again, one more time, and I should probably throw it up on the screen in the captions here. I would be floating everything. You definitely want to float into the meeting. Be ready to lock. Let's see, lock advice. All right. So when it comes to lock advice today, let me save this so it refreshes. All right. So my lock advice, I would go ahead and I would float it all. Only consider locking less than 15 days if after Fed meeting, if things look ugly. This would be my take on it. I would only consider locking loans closing in the next couple of weeks after the Fed meeting if we get a negative reaction in bonds. That's the only loans I would consider locking. I wouldn't lock anything else. Even if we see a negative reaction today, even if things go south, would not panic lock anything. If it's closing in 15, 20, 25 days, 30 days, new contracts, long-term stuff, I wouldn't lock it at all. I don't think there's any reason to worry about locking that stuff because we'll see things continue to roll back down. So, all right, Ron's got we're going to end on a fun note. Ron said today is National Cheesecake Day. Where is it? I see it. All right. Today is National Cheesecake Day. So the question of the day, I'm with Ron. Question of the day, what kind of toppings? What is your favorite kind of cheesecake? What is favorite cheesecake or cheesecake toppings? I like strawberry more than raspberry, but raspberry is more popular. So I'm going with raspberry covered cheesecake. I don't think is chocolate cheesecake really cheesecake. I think that's the pressing question that we've got to get. Is chocolate cheesecake really cheesecake? Mike Morano, he's going plain cheesecake. Michael Love, team extra everything. Yeah, I'm with you. Allison Foy, strawberry. Yeah, I like strawberry more than raspberry too. I definitely agree. Jerry Holcomb is plain. Jerry, it says a lot when you're a man that just likes a simple cheesecake. Michael Love, New York style, no topping, big hunk of solid cheesecake. Vicky's another. She wants it. Just give it to her plain. Blueberry. Ron, I don't see a lot of blueberry cheesecake. That's a good one. Megan Bissell, raspberry. I'm with you. Definitely. Tom Dedmore, chocolate cheesecake with raspberry coulis. Did I pronounce that correct? It looks French, coulis. Holly Johnson, plain or cherry? Cherry cheesecake. I don't think I see a lot of cherry cheesecake. Debbie Richardson, strawberry. Juan Babani, strawberry. Yeah, I'm going team strawberry. I definitely want some red sweet topping on my cheesecake. Plain cheesecake's okay. Not my favorite dessert by any means. I'm more of a chocolate lover. Deb Dickinson, is lemon ricotta cheesecake? No, but I'm with you. I like lemon ricotta. Have you ever had lemon ricotta pancakes? I had a recipe from a bed and breakfast we stayed at years and years ago, and they served them, and we loved it. And I got the recipe for it. They're delicious. Just lemon ricotta pancakes. Google it, find a recipe, make it. Thank me later. So Tiffany Teal, cherry on her cheesecake. All right, y'all. Well, now that we've gotten the good stuff and important stuff out of the way, again, we'll see what happens. We will come back tomorrow and we will talk about which way things broke and how they went. Remember, if you want to get free email lock advice, sign up for that at ratelockadvice.com. We send out an email each and every weekday morning. Check out our text alerts, www.ratetextalerts.com. Also, it's again, rates. You can't depend on rates to get you business. Go check out Grab and Go Social, grabandgosocial.com or originatorssuccess.com. Two of our programs that can help you to get business and, survive this market, thrive in this market. So go check those out. All right, my friends, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you all have a fantastic day. And remember, sign up for those text alerts. We'll be sending out text messages as the Fed goes through all of his all the stuff this afternoon. We'll be sending out text messages letting you know which way things are going. If you need to emergency lock, if you're not signed up for our text alerts, ratetextalerts.com or use this QR code here. They're $7 a month. You can cancel anytime. We don't sell your information. Can't beat them. So check them out. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great one.